finicky, I don't think. You know, whatever gear you have, you can probably use.
Well, for years I used my downer rods, line counters, you know, and they were great. I went and spent all this money on heavier duty gear, and I think it's hurt me. Because the drags just don't work good for some reason.
Yeah, this setup here is ideal.
Yeah, that's what I started out.
You don't have, yeah, you can't beat that setup right there. You know, and if you got a boat where you got a few guys fishing, that boat isn't so long they're going to be poking each other in the eye with it or whatever. But so, anyways, you're out there and you finally figured it out. Set the hook and you got a big fish on. That fish is going to take you to the cleaners for a little while. Okay. The other guys are going to have to clear the rods out of the water. You got 3 or 4 rods in. You know, that's a good time for to make sure the back of the boat is cleared. You know, and then all your pop bottles and worms and everything you got back in there, because you're gonna need some room in the back of that boat for the fish. Typically, a fight's going to take us 20 to 30 minutes to get that fish into the boat. That's with big, heavy gear. So it's a good fight. You use the drag to fight them, of course, and whatever. And you know, I've actually, like Don said, had fish jump right behind the boat, looking right square in the eye. You know, it's always an amazing thing. I caught 3 fish one night, back to back to back. Took me, I got the first one in, took me about 20, 30 minutes. Got my line back in the water. It wasn't 5 minutes. I hooked a second fish. Caught him for about 25, 30 minutes. Got him in the boat, measured him, took pictures. You know, threw my line back in. Third fish, not 5 minutes later. I did not, after I was done with those 3 fish, and I'm a pretty big guy, I did not want to throw my line back in the water again. I was afraid I might catch him up. Okay, so, you know, just the adrenaline, I was just shaking from the adrenaline after 3 fish like that. But, so anyways, now, you got this fish up at the side of the boat, what do? Hopefully, okay, if it's a big fish, and that's what we're always hoping for, that's the reason we fish for these guys, is because they're big fish. You're going to have probably a pair of needle nose pliers ready there. I don't know, maybe a pair of gloves. Certainly a camera, a measuring tape, and all that stuff is ready, and the back of the boat's cleared out. Now, who has ever netted a big fish? Everybody know how to use a net?
Okay. I have a picture of 2 fish that we caught with Don. I'm trying to find them.
Yeah. You know, I got rookies, you know. I always take guys out with me and they think this is some sort of a snow shovel or an ice cream scoop. Okay. First thing is, if you break my $100 net.
That's a rubber.
Okay, yeah, that's a, okay. You're going to make me angry. I will guarantee you this fish will not hold 100-pound, this net will not hold a 100-pound fish this way. Okay, this aluminum right here will bend. The first time you do that, it will ruin your net. Also, nets are interesting things, okay? This net will actually hold a fairly large fish if he's laying in here this way. If you stick his head in the bottom of the net, you're only going to get half a fish in there, okay? I take guys out with me and I have a 6-foot fish laying out there next to the boat in the water, and they want to do this, okay? That's not how a net goes into the water, okay? You net this way, okay? And one edge of the net will be lower, okay? And ideally, you know, like I said, my nets are bigger than this. The guy on the rod can lead the fish into the net, and then you'll bring the back edge over his tail. Now, at that point, you know, this bag is wide open on this net. All right, what you're going to do is you're going to close the bag over the fish. Boom. Okay. that bag just closed up on that fish. And now, you can lift the net this way. Okay. In fact, two people can lift the net this way. Okay. So now you got a 100-pound fish laying here in this net. All right, you get one guy on either side of the net, you can lift that fish up over the side of the boat. Okay. But that's how you use the net, is the net goes into the water this way. The fish's head goes up underneath one edge, the fish lays in there and his tail comes up this way. You don't want his head in the bottom of the net. This is not an ice cream scooper, and it's not a snow shovel, you don't lift like this. Okay. You get the fish in there, you close the bag on the fish, you lift vertically, bring that fish to the boat, you're going to save yourself $100. Right. So that's the proper way to net a fish. You're going to get that fish into the boat. Now, smaller fish, anything up to about 40 inches or so, a lot of times you can just grab them in front of the tail, and then you just slide your hand under the belly, and that's what we do when we're musky fishing, is you just grab them, slide your hand under the belly and bring them up and cradle them. Okay. You never, it just kills me. I watch these guys walleye fishing, and they catch a sturgeon as an incidental catch, and they're holding them up by the gills. You just never want to do that with these fish. Okay. You always cradle them, hold them horizontally, support the weight of the fish with one hand under their belly. And you can do that quite readily on a smaller fish. Again, it's nice to have a fishing partner. You're dealing with a lot of weight sometimes. You know, we got two people in the boat. You know, we'll get the fish in the boat, and we want to handle them the least possible. So we'll roll him out of the net, get the hook out of his mouth. You know, our boat, my boat, I've got a 21-footer. It's got an engine compartment on it. Instead of guy in the engine compartment, lift the fish up in his lap. You can cradle the fish, get a nice picture of it. You know, get it weighed and measured, and get it back in the water and get it revived. And that can sometimes take a little bit of time as well. We'll take the fish, put them over the side of the boat. We'll hold on to them by the tail until they're ready to go on their own. We'll hold them upright, we'll work them back and forth in the water like you'd revive any other big fish. But, and like Don, sometimes Don will tell you.
Yeah, when you're letting go, the tail and the head, you can actually put your hand right in their sucker mouth to keep their head up straight. And then what I found helps too, I got a 19-foot boat. I'll turn my motor so my boat's sitting like this. It kind of blocks the current on that side, and then it takes two guys to hold these bigger fish. Yeah, Justin seen that. He was out there, and his dad stuck his hand right in the mouth, and you just hold it, and they'll let you know when they're ready. You know, they'll start wiggling, and then you just let them go, you know. So you go down.
Yeah, so, you know, but just handle them gently. These fish are really actually quite docile. You know, and it goes back to the way you discover that sometimes. It goes back to the National Geographic thing. When we were fishing out there, we had a camera boat, and we also had Zeb Hogan was on Jeremy and Steve Guck's boat. They had a camera on that boat as well. But I hooked up a couple of those fish, and I just hold that fish right there. Well, they came over with the camera boat. I get a hold of them on the radio. That fish would never fight until I put pressure on him. Like you didn't even know he was like, just like walking your dog. Okay, but when you put a little pressure on them, they fight like crazy. But they're really quite docile. Once you handle these fish a few times, you know, and you release them back into the water, it's like they almost don't want to go. It's like now you're buddies. You know, they just want to lay there in the water and be lazy and enjoy the company. You know, so but they're great sport fish. And you know, the thing that we like to tell people, and I think this is really a kind of a critical thing, because these fish, the females only spawn about every 4 or 5 years. The males will come in and spawn every couple of years. So when you take a big fish out of the system, you know, some of these fish that we're catching out there are as much as 74, 75 years old. When that fish was, you know, and again, interrupted spawning. It takes a long time if you harvest that fish to replace that fish. The other thing is, interestingly enough, it's the only fish in the system, if I'm 20 years old, I go out and catch a sturgeon that big, okay? 20 years, when my son is 20 years old, he can catch that same fish when it's this big. And when his son is 20 years old, he can catch that very same fish when it's this big. Okay, so you can catch 3 or 4 generations could actually catch the same exact fish. They live that long. So that's why we practice catch and release. We want to protect the resource. We don't care if you harvest a fish once in a while, okay? I harvested one. The meat is a heavier texture. It's quite oily. It's a stronger fishy flavor. It's not terrible. But I would much rather eat walleyes and perch, so that was the last sturgeon I will ever kill. The rules and regulations are set up to allow for a certain level of harvest without hurting the resource. So as long as we're all acting legally and ethically, we should be fine. As this fishery becomes more popular, and it has as we have started to promote it, this was a record year for us with 25 tag returns to the Department of Natural Resources. Our biggest year prior to that was 18 last year. We expect this fishery to continue to grow and become more popular. And as it does, I think, are going to see more harvest. I know there were, I mentioned 25 tag fish reported to the DNR. There was only 11 fish registered this year as having been kept. So it's developed into a catch and release fishery. Some limited harvest. It's been very responsible. We're just tickled to death about that. And you know, we will not seek, as long as there is a viable population and some harvest can be sustained, we will not seek to stop that. But we want everybody to enjoy the resource in the way that they best possibly can. And we're just happy that you guys have such an interest in this. It's again, I didn't take advantage of this until I was over 50 years old. I just turned 60 this year. It's been out here all my life, and I just discovered it. It took me forever for a buddy to talk me into doing it, and now I'm so excited about it. It's just crazy. But it's a great thing we've got here. So, does anybody have any questions about the fishing part of it?
Daylight hours, any luck there? Fishing,
Yeah. The best time of the year for the fishing typically is in the fall, September, October. My suggestion is, if you want to do daytime fishing, because of the boat traffic down there, that you do it at that time of the year. I got a buddy of mine, Tom Pluckett. He's one of our founders. We call him Sturgeon, actually, his name on the Michigan Sportsman's Forum is Sturgeon. One of the best fishing trips he's had was about a 3.5-hour Saturday morning fishing trip with him and a couple of buddies, and they caught 13 fish. That was right down by Decker's Landing, out in front of the Snide, down in that area. They made a few moves through the morning. They landed 13 fish in one day. We had some rookies go out there. I don't know, they got excited about it. I think there was 4 of them on the boat. They got to the DNR launch there in Elginak, across from the Kroger's, and their buddy was running about 45 minutes late, still daylight hours. And so instead of just sitting there at the boat launch, they decided they'd just go out and anchor straight out just off the drop-off. By the time their buddy got there, they'd like landed 3 fish. Okay, still daylight hours. We were very fortunate a few years ago. The only double header we have ever had on, Jenny Olson was coming up to fish with us on Tom Loy's boat. She was a little late getting there, thank God. Okay, sometimes the stars just align for you. And we come out of the canal, ran up to the river, and we're getting ready to drop anchor. We hadn't dropped anchor yet. My buddies were up there, Jeremy and Steve, and they got 2 fish on. Okay. Still daylight hours, 3:30 in the afternoon. They got a double header on. They had 2 fish hit almost simultaneously. And they actually landed both of those fish, and we got them on film for Michigan Outdoors TV. Never before or since have we ever had a double header, and we got it on television that night. We put 5 fish on film that night. So, very, very fun experience. But yeah, daytime, certainly, I know Dave Dortman has been out, took the kids out. We have an outing every year in September. I think he went out the day before or earlier in the day, caught fish at 11 o'clock in the morning.
And we caught them in the daylight, in the evening, right, you know, get out there like 5 o'clock and get them before daylight too. I mean, it's mostly the boat traffic. Why we don't fish in the day is boat traffic and the garbage fish. You know, you'll get a lot of gobies, more gobies in the daylight. You'll get your bait stolen more, so you'll be rebaiting more. But they're there in the day. You gotta put up with some more stuff. And something I'd like to see too is we concentrate down in the North Channel, most of us. They're all through this river. So if any of you guys start fishing for them, find some slower areas, Marysville, St. Clair, and try it out. Because not too many people do that, and I'm curious. I mean, I might try it this year down by St. Clair and see how that works out. But let us know if you are catching them other places other than the North Channel, because I'm sure the DNR would be happy to hear that too.
Yeah, you know, and I've always been curious because I know when Purdy's was doing commercial fishing up here in Lower Lake Huron, that, you know, the sturgeon up there can be a problem for them. But I don't know that that's just on the Canadian side of Lower Lake Huron. I would be very curious about whether or not somebody could maybe do a little drift up here, you know, with maybe drifting a kind of a natural presentation of a gobble crawlers along the bottom or something, and kind of see what happens. I wouldn't doubt you might develop a new fishing technique and a new fishery up here in this end of the river, which would be sweet. You know, you got to stay in American waters, but you know, that would be a neat deal. The other thing is too, it's well, your buddy Dennis.
Yeah.
You know, he found a spot, I think, down in the South Channel. Nobody fished in the South Channel. And he's a trout guy, you know, and he's real good at reading the water. And he just went down there and he says, this looks good, and hanked it up down there and started catching big sturgeon down there. All by himself, nobody else fishing it. So certainly there's some opportunities, and you might develop a new method or something, but there's fish out here to be had. Pretty good fishable population. So.
The U.S. Fish and Wildlife has very, I know when they do their set lines, they're coming up with, this will be what, 3 or 4 years now, a data of them readers that they're inserting into the fish. That's really cool information. Some of these fish are coming from all over. They're thinking that the whole spawning population of the whole Great Lakes is coming right here, which is very unique. Very.
Yeah, and that's, you know, and again, this area is really special. Brian will tell you every now and again somebody wants to start messing with it, putting something or another in the bottom of the river to stop current flow, hold back water, generate electricity, or whatever the case might be. And this really is special out here. It's unique to the Great Lakes. It really needs to be preserved. And we do work to try to protect what we have here. So, any other questions regarding the fishing?
He's got one right here.
Sure.
Jeff, going to Canadian waters, got a Canadian license. Don't you have to call in customs,
Yes.
identify everybody on boat and everything?
Yeah, exactly so. And we fish muskies over on the Canadian side. All once at Algonac to run over to the south shore over by the Bell River Hump and the Thames River and Stony Point, and we troll muskies over there. But there's no open season, there's more moratorium on sturgeon fishing in Canadian waters. Okay, so you
Also on night crawlers, you say how dirty they are. We always fished them, made a box, had a lid on it, and the bottom we put a screen on it. Then we put wash rags or towels or whatever, and put the night crawlers in there. If it was hot, we'd dip it in the river or the lake every once in a while, cool them off. Never ever use worm with dirt on
With
it.
dirt on them, eh? Yeah.
It really works good.
I'll have to remember that. That's a good tip. You know, but that's, yeah, so, all right. Well, just couple other things here too. One of the things that we like to do here is to promote some other things. We want to promote ourselves a little bit here. We are a 501c3 nonprofit corporation. We depend on donations, memberships. We sell these shirts up here at the Sturgeon Festival too. I do have some membership applications here, if anybody wants to think about joining our organization. We're intentionally inexpensive. It's $20 for a membership, $10 for seniors, $35 for family. We're a fun organization. We do a lot of different things here. One of the big things that we're involved with up here in Port Huron is the Blue Water Sturgeon Festival, and that's coming up like on May 30th. And what a blast that is. It's going to be bigger than ever this year. This will be our third year doing that. The first year we had about 1,100 people show up. Last year closer to 2,500. This year we're going to try to push about 5,000 people through there. What we do is we bring the sturgeon to the people. And we like to bring people into downtown Port Huron to spend some money. It's a great tourism thing, but the Huron Lady too, we have 3 boat cruises. Those tickets will go on sale April 1st. That boat will hold about 100 people. And this is intentionally set up to coincide with sturgeon spawning. Greg Lashbrook and Kathy Johnson from Gregory AD will be aboard the Huron Lady. Greg dives with a live video feed up to the deck of the boat. We usually have a couple of televisions that are donated by Best Buy. Okay, there's actually a cable that runs off the back of the boat down to this camera and take people out on the Huron Lady. They can actually view live sturgeon spawning. We've been real fortunate the last couple of years. We've had clear water conditions, low freighter traffic. We've had a great time out there. Also, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. They will actually go out on their set lines and capture some adult lake sturgeon that we'll have up on a tank along the shoreline there. It's a great thing for families and kids. They can come up there and actually walk up to the side of the tank and actually touch the field of sturgeon, look at the sturgeon up close. Also, typically in our tent, our booth there at the Sturgeon Festival, we'll have a juvenile sturgeon, a small one, in a tank there in the aquarium, so people can look at that as well. So, we have a unique situation here in this watershed. We have sturgeon guarding up at Black Lake. The fish come up in the river to spawn. It's a shallow water situation up there, and they have researchers up there that can bring the fish up to the shoreline for people to see. It's a little more difficult here, so we bring the fish up to the people. There's a lot of opportunities to view sturgeon up close there. Also this year, this is one of our major fundraising events. Again, we depend on donations, and we're going to do a few different little fundraisers. There's going to be a running event associated with the Sturgeon Festival. Brad running in that, or his wife is. 5K, going to run down the new river walk and back to the Maritime Center. The finish line is going to be at the start of the Sturgeon Festival. So there's going to also be a 1K, which is about 0.6 of a mile family fun run there as well. So that's a great event if you guys can make it to that. Our runner registration right now until March 16th has been discounted. You can go to Run Sign Up and sign up for that running event if you want. But please try to make the Sturgeon Festival. It's a great fun thing that we do up here. It's a collaborative venture in the city here, and it's just everything we do is just a lot of fun. So.
And then once the season opens every month, I usually coordinate a monthly fishing outing. Usually it's on a Saturday. If you look us up on Facebook, St. Clair, Detroit River Sturgeon for Tomorrow, we all get together on a Saturday evening. Everybody brings their boats, and we usually do $20 a boat for the biggest fish, and it's all catch and release. But I print out these special pictures. It's got to be in the picture with the fish and with your tape measure, and then biggest fish of that night, gets half the money, and then we donate the other half to Sturgeon for Tomorrow. So if you guys are interested in that, that's a lot of fun. We all get together and actually fish and get tips, and it's fun.
We're also planning on, as another fundraising event, In the past, we've always kind of on the third Saturday in September, always done kind of a little impromptu, kind of potluck get together at the state park and whatever. Then we get a bunch of people out and we go fish the river, come back all at midnight, 11 o'clock, compare notes. But this year we want to try to run a bigger actual fishing tournament, maybe a banquet associated with that. Again, it's a fun thing, a fundraiser for us. Working on some of the plans for that right now, so just kind of keep your eyes open for that as well later on in the year. But again, everything we do is just a whole ton of fun. We're going to be out at the Earth Fair out here in Goodles in April. We're doing some outreach out there. Another great event, a big family thing, a lot of school kids out there. Just a great thing to attend. I think that's probably the last Saturday, the weekend of the 25th. So lots of fun stuff. This is a blast to come up here and talk to you guys, man. You guys are pretty special just for showing up. That's what makes it all work for us.
No doubt.
So kudos to you, man. Thanks for being here, guys.
Let's thank Jim and Don. They'll stick around for a bit, I'm sure, to,
Absolutely.
and everything you guys do. You guys do a great job, real good job.
Appreciate it. So.
Again, thanks for everybody showing up an hour earlier with the clock. Not too many young guys in here today, though. Huh? It's all the older group. That's kind of ironic.